Good morning. This morning we're here with Mr. Jacques De Vos of Mezzanine. Good morning, Jacques.
Morning, Dennis.
So to start off with, could you just tell us your story, please? How did you get into electrical and electronic engineering?
Yeah, thanks, Dennis. So I grew up in Malmesbury, which is a relatively small rural town not far from Stellenbosch. And we've never really had any discussions during school and what to study and what not to study. Most of my friends were from the farm, surrounding farms, so going back to the farm was more or less what most people signed up for life. But I'm from a background of engineers. My grandfather was an electronic engineer. He had 9 kids, which 6 of them was also engineers. My cousins, my nephews, all are engineers. My brothers are engineers. So I guess it was in the blood. But yeah, no, it was always something I wanted to do, and had the privilege to study at Stellenbosch after school.
Okay, fascinating. So it's a common theme, actually. Many people say that they came from a family of engineers. Could you tell me, Jacques, you've gone a different route to what many engineers do, and I think it's something many engineers aspire to at the moment. It's setting up your own business and then launching that and making a difference in the world and in our continent and in our country. Could you maybe just briefly tell me what the process is that you've gone through?
Sure. It was more by accident than by design. I did medical or biomedical engineering as postgrad, partly in Leuven in Belgium, but also at Stellenbosch University. And after finishing my master's, I came to the realization that apart from Europe and the US, there's not much going on in the biomedical field in South Africa. And we had a course in our 4th year, I can't recall the name, but it was an entrepreneurial course,
Entrepreneurship. Yep.
Entrepreneurship. And yeah, that stimulated the idea of the thought of, okay, but why not start something? So yeah, that was more or less out of the need of getting a job. I was a lecturer for 1 year at the university, and during that year I've managed to get in contact with a couple of like-minded individuals, and we've decided to start a business. Back then, the idea was just to develop medical devices specifically for the African continent and requirements. And that was the beginning of it all.
Fantastic. And now you're in a business that is partially owned by Vodacom. And from what I can see, that you're making a pretty big success of this and making proper inroads into the continent, which is fantastic. Maybe speak to us about some of the challenges that you faced when you had to set up a company coming out of engineering.
There's numerous things that, and of course it's a journey. So I'm now going back 15 years. It doesn't feel like 15 years. It feels like yesterday. But initially, of course, it's all about cash flow and getting customers. And as an engineer, you feel like if you build a good product, then the customers will come and buy your product. But over time, you learn that it's most people don't really mind on how you build the solution or what algorithms you've used and neural networks and all the buzzwords that we love to use. Customers really just would like to buy a good service or solution at a good price from a perceived value point of view that solves their problem. So we had one of the biggest challenges for us was to get out of the engineering mindset into a business mindset in saying, but it's not about the how, it's about the why and the what. So it's a journey, and of course, initially as part of a startup, you go through that first 3 to 4 years where you need to pay salaries and you need to pay your bills, which is a challenge. So we've been fortunate to get customers at the early stage that believed in our vision, and that supported us in getting through that initial phase.
I think that is actually one of the most important and most difficult lessons to learn for an engineer. It's It's not about the solution that you've created. It's about the problem that you're trying to solve. And it's a like you say, it's a whole mind shift that needs to happen. If you think back to when you left university, what is the main thing that engineering taught you? What is the biggest thing that you took away from engineering that you still use today?
Sure. There's, I think for me, and in healthcare, but I think it's true for most industries, it's what we refer to as complex adaptive, meaning it's always changing. We've seen now during the COVID pandemic again, you can't apply a cookie cutter recipe or approach. And I think what engineering taught us, or me, and if you look at my friends that studied in the same period, also starting their own businesses, is to really be able to adapt and build in those feedback loops that we learn in control systems of improving and iterative improvement, and the ability to be agile. Again, where's the need, where's the opportunities, and how can I align my offering and my ability and my skills and my talents in servicing those needs. And often quite a linear view with respect to where your offering will fit into a marketplace or in a value chain. And I think if you're too fixated on your own view, then you'll fail. You need to be able to almost align with what the need and the ask is. Our industry to pull your offering. And in order to do that, you need to go through multiple iterations of improvements, but also changing your own mindset and your own view on the industry that you service. So I think spend time with customers, spend time with the stakeholders that use the solution that you built. And we in system engineering, so there's a broad range of stakeholders that we engage with, and allow them to co-create the offering with you. Don't think you're the smartest guy in the room and you've got a solution that can solve the world's problems. Allow the world to tell you how to solve the problem that they have, and guide your thinking. It's a journey, and yeah, I think there will always be a horizon on what's next and what's possible. But yeah, allow the journey to guide you in where you should play a part.
Okay. Thank you. So the next question is really about giving guidance to engineering students. So let me frame it as follows. If there are students who are thinking of becoming engineers, where do you see the field opening up for them? Where should they be focusing? What type of skill set should they be looking out for to make them employable in 5 to 10 years' time?
Oh, I've got so many people that contact me and say, I need to choose what to study, or I've finished my degree and I would like to know whether I should go and work, and should I do a master's? It's difficult. I think I will always remember I can't remember the prof's name. It was in our first year and we sat in that big auditorium in the engineering faculty. And he said something that at the time sounded really stupid to me. He said, you guys realize that in 10 years' time, 50% of you, and talking to an auditorium of about, 200 to 300 engineering first-year students, will be in a job that doesn't exist today. And I sat there and I thought by myself, surely most things in life have been invented, and I was just thinking of all the things that we have at our disposal. That engineers created and developed. And that was before, it was the early days of the internet, the early days of the cell phone industry. And if I look back, okay, it's now more than 10 years, it's about almost 20 years. It's absolutely true. It's probably 70% of us are on jobs in that year group that didn't exist. So to answer your question, I think that the key word for me is creative. So creativity, the ability to in your engineering degree, gather the necessary building blocks. And I always refer to a Lego set that you can then, throughout your life and your career journey, can apply in different ways in solving problems and addressing needs. So in business, we employ a lot of engineers. And the one thing we always look for is, okay, one thing to have the building blocks and understand how to fit together the building blocks, but the creativity part, the non-linear thinking component is really what you're looking for in an employee. So I would encourage the students, engineering students, to always look at how can I apply that which I've learned in a creative way, in addressing a real life need or requirement, or solve a problem statement. I think there's a lot of opportunities on the continent that we live in. In Africa, I think there's so much room for improvement, access to clean water, improve education outcomes, healthcare, income, food security. There's just so many opportunities. And I think that's why we still, after 15 years of developing products and services, are still quite excited about the future. And always getting new students in and new employees on board on the bus that can bring their own flavor of thinking creatively and servicing a need out there.
So Jacques, that's really all we have time for. Unfortunately, I wish we could speak longer. It was really nice to hear your thoughts and to get your wisdom. I'm pretty sure it's going to be very useful to the learners out there as well. Thank you for spending time with us.
No, thanks, Dennis. And you guys are doing some great work. I follow a lot of your projects on LinkedIn, and I must congratulate the ingenuity and also just how tangible it is. We often find ourselves focusing on theoretical problems. I think there's a lot of very real needs out there that we can apply our skills in solving. So well done to you also.
Thank you.